I watched the Among Us movie the other day, and let me just tell you, it was horrible. So I was just sitting around the house the other day when I got a call from one of my friends, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go watch the Among Us movie?" And I'm like, "Sure, I got nothing better to do." So I go over to his house, and we start this Among Us movie. And as the title card plays, I noticed something really weird. It did not say the Among Us movie. It said... So the Among Us movie starts off and it introduces us to a group of British tourists who, in classic British fashion, stand around for a really long time doing absolutely freaking nothing. After about 30 minutes of this, something really weird happens. The group of British tourists wake up to find an enormous JBL speaker in the middle of their campsite. This JBL speaker apparently has the ability to inspire them to make tools. Goofy-ass tools, which they then use to destroy another group of British tourists. Flash forward a couple thousand years, and we've forgotten all about the British tourists. We are now introduced to a doctor guy who is the leader of some kind of moon mission. He explains in a long piece of exposition that there's an unidentified object on the moon that looks like it's been placed by something. That's funny because last I checked, nothing lives on the moon. So they're on the space mission in a little pod, and they're in their tinfoil suits. They get out on the moon, and they start walking down into a crater, and in the middle of the crater, guess what? There's the JBL speaker! They go up to take a picture with it, and immediately the JBL speaker starts blasting Fetty Wap, which of course makes them cover their ears because it's Fetty Wap, and then we say goodbye to this moon mission. Another time skip, this time a year and a half since the moon mission. We are introduced to the Jupiter mission. The crew of the Jupiter mission consists of Frank, Dave, 3 crewmates in hibernation, and HAL 9000, who's like the AI pilot of the crew, kind of like the one in WALL-E. There is one imposter among them, so the crew is going to Jupiter to investigate the appearance of the JBL speaker on the moon. But along the way, HAL 9000 starts acting a little bit sus. And so Frank and Dave convene in a secret pod where Hal cannot hear them, where they plan to disconnect Hal. Hal can't hear them, but he can freaking read their lips. So Hal hears their plan to disconnect him, and so he freaking ejects Dave.
Oh my God!
Frank rushes out in a pod to save him, and he grabs his body with the little claw things on the pod. He gets back to the spaceship, but he's hovering outside waiting for the garage door to open like he's freaking... This is where you get the famous line,
"Open the pod bay doors, Hal."
So yeah, Hal is the imposter if you didn't figure that out. And then Frank sneaks back into the spaceship somehow, and then he sneaks into the compartment where Hal's brain is located. And he starts disconnecting it while Hal sings a really weird, creepy song.
Give me your answer, do.
So now Hal is disconnected, and then we are brought out of the spaceship, and we are looking at an alignment of planets. We see, what's that? Oh, it's the JBL speaker floating towards Frank's spaceship. And he's on his way to take Frank through an interdimensional acid trip that lasts about freaking 20 minutes of the movie. So for 20 minutes, you're sitting through the most boring acid trip ever, praying for the credits to roll. And then we get this shot. And he's either having a seizure or he's experiencing some kind of intense sexual favor. And he sees something even weirder than his own chicken being choked. He sees an older version of himself standing in the white room in front of him. You follow this older version, and he walks around the house, and he sees a really old version of himself. And then the really old version of himself sees a deathbed version of him. You get the point. Now the deathbed version of himself is sitting there in the bed looking like Emperor Palpatine after 3 hits of fentanyl. He looks up. Guess what he sees? The JBL speaker. That's right, blasting Fetty Wap. And the Fetty Wap has the magical transformative ability to turn the deathbed version of Frank into a baby. And let me tell you, it's the largest baby I've ever seen. The end of the Among Us movie. That's it. So the Among Us movie was directed by this guy who directed this movie.
Here's Johnny!
And because of that, people glaze this movie to no end. They talk on and on about how it's such an artistic masterpiece, kind of like the banana that's taped to the wall. People just stare at it and go, oh, wow, it's so meaningful and deep, just because they want to sound smart. Every shot of the movie seems to go on 5 minutes with absolutely nothing happening. People will tell you, oh, that's just because it's a visual-driven movie. It's not a plot-driven movie. You're just supposed to immerse yourself in the visuals. If I wanted to immerse myself in visuals, I would look at a picture. But I want a frickin' story, okay? Not a 20-minute shot of the amazing Technicolor Grand Canyon. Do not watch the Among Us movie. It is horrible. Also, it would be great if you would like and subscribe. I don't care either way, but it'd be awesome. Alrighty, I'll see you.